Hello everyone and welcome to this DSSI presentation about marrying the masculine and feminine principles, an essential union to create inner and outer harmony. So, of course, working with Jeliel triggers so beautiful and so profound emotions related to love, to the couple relationship, but it also concerns, relationships in general. And it's very important to understand that when we talk about the masculine and feminine principles, we talk about, first and foremost, our individual qualities at first, our own principles. Because when we develop the qualities represented by the masculine principle, so whether we are a man or a woman, so we all have the masculine principle within ourselves, which represents willpower, emissivity, authority, capacity to assert ourselves, right motivation, capacity to move forward, to go into action. So when we develop that, so eventually, once we have these qualities within ourselves, then we encounter, by resonance, people, who will also resonate with these kind of qualities. And the same with the feminine polarity, of course, which represents our receptivity, comfort, empathy, love, softness, gentleness, etc. So, when I see such a picture like here of a couple during like a wedding ceremony, for example, so of course we can be touched by the romantic aspect of a wedding, but at the same time, I know that both of them, if they don't work profoundly on themselves, eventually this picture, will no longer be available in a few months or in a few years. Because actually, as I said before, we need to develop within ourselves at first these essential qualities. So as a man, if I want my wife to manifest certain qualities, certain feminine qualities, I have to develop them within myself at first. And the same for a woman. If the woman wants the man to manifest certain qualities, so the woman has to develop these masculine qualities within herself at first. So this is so crucial to understand these fundamental notions about how we can really develop these polarities within ourselves at first. And when we talk about also polarities, we talk about the fusion between the inner and the outer world. So that means that what we have within ourselves, like our thoughts, our emotions, they need to be transposed into actions. So it's necessary to have like, a fusion between what we think, what we feel, and what we do. And this is how we can achieve also like a profound union and coherence of our inner world and outer world. So we have really interesting sharings today. So I'd like to start right now with the first one, which is called needs of pleasing others. So, as it is important to be good at the social level before the couple, I would like to share the difficulties I face in that dimension. I face some problems in socializing, and upon further study, I have found that it's mostly related to difficulties in approaching others. So it's interesting here that the student says we need to be good at the social level before the couple. So I wouldn't really say that like that. Actually, here we can feel an aspect where the social becomes a little bit too important, at least more important than the individual level. So this is very important to distinguish very well these notions. So it's not necessary to be really good at the social, before the couple. We just need to be good at the individual level. But the more we improve our individual level, of course, the more we improve our capacity to interact with others, whether it is our friends or eventually in a couple relationship. So this is very interesting, and we will see that the student will explain certain aspect regarding the way he socializes sometimes and how it is related to at first our individual personality. So I don't think I am shy or socially anxious, because I certainly don't have a problem talking to people when approached by them, or if I am sharing a seat with them, for instance. I even like it, although I do feel exhausted after a while sometimes. And then he says, needs of pleasing others. So that's a good explanation. Of course, when we feel exhausted after seeing or talking to people, it's because eventually we lose a part of our energy in the process. So either we want to please them, or we want to imitate them, or to be like them, or we force our energy, we push to be accepted by others, or we tend to play roles, to lack authenticity, and or also we can feel many resonances, and these resonances make us lose our stability and our capacity to be really well connected to our center personality. So you see, sometimes we just put too much importance in what the others think or what the others will perceive from us, and then we can make all kind of scenarios. So if I do that, eventually the others will think like that, or will consider me like this or like that, etc. And of course, if we manifest ourselves always depending on how we think that the others will perceive us, then it becomes very complicated, because we calculate a lot our movements, our gestures, our words. If we say that, is it too much, not enough, etc. So, of course, it's necessary to adjust ourselves and to be able to evaluate ourselves, to see if we are able to manage our energy well when we interact in a social environment. But when we calculate too much, depending on others, what they think, what they perceive, what they will say, etc. So the intention is not the same, because the intention is not based on what we evaluate in ourselves in terms of qualities, but the intention is transposed in the other's mind. And this is like actually an illusion that makes us lose a lot of energy. So I have also noticed that a lot of times talking to others is automatic, but sometimes I face certain issues. This difficulty to approach others stems from my tendency to overthink. This happens especially with women, as talking to my own gender is not that difficult. And then, of course, we can tend to overthink because we can be afraid of being rejected, particularly by the other gender. If we want to try to please, to be in a couple relationship, then eventually we can, try certain aspects, make jokes, or, be very smart, and etc. And then at the same time, we are afraid that the others won't like us. And again, this is how we can start to calculate or the opposite sometimes. Sometimes we are ready to do anything, and because of that, we no longer think, and we do anything we can just to make people laugh or make people love us, and then we exaggerate, etc. And in both cases, this creates a lack of balance. So you see, at the beginning of the presentation, I mentioned the importance of the inner qualities, because we think that the relationship is a purpose in itself, but this is not the purpose. The relationship should be seen as like the possibility to evolve and to inspire and to develop new qualities within ourselves, and to help others develop qualities also. But if we think too much in terms of result, I want to be his friend, or I want to be her husband, or I want to be part of this group, then eventually our intention is already not on the right place. So we should just put our intention in something more qualitative, that it's based on qualities, on something sacred, something evolutive, that nourishes ourselves and others on all levels. So, however, the most difficult is approaching a group that is my age and consists of both men and women. Of course, because sometimes when not sometimes, all the time when we enter, or when we try to enter in a group or a community, eventually, it creates like a more collective dimension. And to well manage the collective dimension, we need to be able to manage each individuality. And of course, it starts with ourselves at first, our own individual self. Are we able to manage our energy, to manage our intention, our qualities, distortion, how we interact, what we do, etc., what we think, do we talk the way we imagined, etc. So we need to really, really have a profound awareness of who we are. And then once we have reached this awareness, eventually we can be aware of each quality and also each distortion of an entire group, because we will be able to recognize each part of the group as a part of ourselves. And this is what allows us to be really, really well, to be at ease in front of sometimes, hundreds of people, because they don't necessarily look like hundreds of people. They are like, at the same time they are hundreds, but at the same time they are one, because we know the collective, because we know our collective, and we know each individuality because we know also what is within ourselves. So you see, the more we work on our memories, on our own social and collective dimension, the more also we work on our resonances, and the more we are able to just be in a group or to stand in front of a group and to be completely neutral, at ease, because we recognize everyone as a part of ourselves. So these are the questions I sometimes ask myself. Is there any need to approach? Will I not inconvenience the other person? It's possible they would insult me publicly. How do I find a topic to talk about? What if I seem desperate or inferior? What if there is a lot of awkward silence? What if I'm making a fool of myself? And all these questions are actually normal. This is normal at first to think about that. But you see, there is in almost each question like an aspect that is too much centered on the other's point of view, And of course, sometimes we can lose our reputation, or we can, we can look like someone not really smart or not very, joyful or funny or whatever. But again, this is in the other's eyes. But when we ask ourselves other questions such as, what do I need to understand in this relationship? What can I bring from myself into this group, and that will help others? What I am developing when I see this person. So when we think in terms of evolution, in terms of qualities, in terms of transformation also, because sometimes we need to transform certain aspects of ourselves so that our relationships are always better. So we don't give the power to others. We just come back to ourselves and remember that we keep things in control, actually, because if we put our energy and our intention at the right place, then eventually the others won't control us, because we will know that this is not their point of view that matters. This is what we do, how we behave, what we feel and what we can transmit also. So, and then of course we can always imagine the worst case scenarios, and then sometimes, yes, there can be like an awkward silence. But this doesn't mean that it is necessarily our fault, somehow, or because we don't have anything important or interesting to say. No, sometimes it's just because the energy, the alchemy, the affinities are not there, and this is okay. Okay, we just realize that maybe we don't have necessarily the same frequencies, and at that moment it's okay. We can just maybe talk about something else or with someone else, and there is nobody to blame. It's just like that. This is like a natural movement. Or sometimes we can feel inferior, and sometimes we will feel superior, and this shouldn't happen neither. When we remember that actually we all are parts of God, we are all experimenting life to develop qualities. This, being superior, inferior, we just realize that it is a complete illusion after a while. There is no need to feel diminished or to exaggerate our importance, because this doesn't bring a good balance, a good harmony, neither happiness. So, even if people insult you in public, and then people will laugh at you, and then if you are able to look at yourself in the mirror and to say, I love you, I know my qualities, I love myself, without having a big head and ego, etc., but just knowing that, okay, if they mock me, if they laugh at me, it's because actually they laugh also at themselves, and they are diminishing their own weaknesses. But if I don't do that with myself, I no longer resonate with people that would tend to belittle me. So you see, in all cases, if you imagine in depth the worst case scenario, what it means symbolically speaking, and then you work on that, like if it was a dream, then eventually these kind of questions disappear. So, and again, I think, is it really necessary to talk right now before I eventually tell myself that no, it's not necessary, thus escaping from my problems? When I reflect on these pessimistic thoughts, my heart starts beating faster, legs shake a bit, and I feel the need to clear my throat. But as I said before, sometimes it's okay just to leave like a silence. You know, sometimes silence are very telling and then give you information about, okay, maybe this is not the right person or the right moment. So we should not necessarily always try to fill, you know, the silences. So because sometimes it's just not necessarily to talk. You know, it's not necessary. We just need to wait, to be receptive, to observe, to evaluate ourselves, the others, and then eventually, when we talk again, we are smarter. So it's not necessarily an escape. So as a reaction, I either don't talk to the woman, sometimes either gender, or I wear this facade of confidence and aloofness, the I don't care sort of energy. This is interesting here because this is like a false outer detachment to be like, you know, I don't care, everything's fine, you know, doesn't need to be approached, like a kind of, you know, cat attitude. But at the same time, behind that, there are so many wishes and needs to connect and to create like a connection or, you know, closeness, and this creates like attraction, repulsion games also with time. So this is why we really need to go to the very essence of the qualities that we want, you know. So if we know that sometimes we are like a little bit I don't care and cat attitude, so we need to go to a lot of authenticity. But of course, we don't necessarily need to try to exaggerate and to become like a dog, you know, that always want to have contacts and friends and likes and, you know. So we just need to find the right middle way. So upon further analysis, the reason behind these fears are needs of admiration from others, want to become very important socially, and when not possible, tendency to escape the social level entirely. Self-centeredness, ego, superiority and inferiority complex, as I sometimes want to become the best or think I am lacking. So these are very profound realizations here, of course, from the student. So it is important to note that this doesn't really happen all the time. I think that would be called socially anxiety, but this does happen a lot of times, especially when I don't have an imperative to talk. For example, 2 of the people I made a project with were women, and I had absolutely no problem communicating with them. Yes, because the energy was transferred. Instead of putting too much focus on the relationship itself, the focus was more on the project. And then this is why, you know, the energy could circulate more, you know, in the relationship itself. But you see, as I explained before, when we put too much emphasis and focus on just the relationship, as if it is a goal in itself, then eventually we create a blockage, because this shouldn't be the goal in itself. And this is why we can become a little bit like, you know, not at ease and saying things that are not really adapted or appropriate or weird sometimes, because we try to adjust ourselves just regarding the relationship, but not in terms of qualities. And this creates these discrepancies. My understanding, in my school, a lot of the times I have been the subject of mocking by boys and girls alike. I think this also caused a percentage of fear of sometimes talking to people especially the type of women with a high social standing admired by a lot of people for beauty. And of course, when we are aware of that, we know that we touch certain memories. And of course, the more we cleanse these memories, we go back to the root of them, we remember the law of resonance, the law of karma eventually, etc. And then we reprogram ourselves. And this is what allows us to progressively turn the page from the past. So this is what sometimes makes me afraid to talk. So when I am absolutely sure that people won't mock or insult me, then I can easily communicate. So of course these memories have created a certain insecurity. But at that moment, if we remember, okay, I have somehow overprotected myself, or I have built a certain, shell around myself just to avoid to be hurt, then eventually we come back to ourselves and say, okay, sometimes I hurt others also, and I was hurt, and sometimes I'm criticized, and I diminished others, and now I feel like that. And then, we invoke, we cleanse these memories, we stop diminishing others, criticizing others, we stop criticizing and diminishing ourselves, and progressively we no longer need the other's approval to be able to talk normally, because we know that what we are going to say is good, is right, and is important. And if not, okay, we don't say anything, but we trust our own words. We have confidence within ourselves and what we say and what we do also. So I really understand that these situations and people were teachers that helped me learn and reflection of what I have done in the past exactly. However, I really wish to transcend my insecurities and heal my difficulties on the social level. And this will come, for sure. This will come because once we are aware of everything that the student shared, in this PR, of course, this awareness is like almost already 50% of the journey. And then this is like a continuity, an inner work in process to continue to deliver and to transform the remaining 50%, that still need to be improved. But this awareness and this teaching of reprogramming our memories help us really to rediscover an entire new world within ourselves that we can then transpose, of course, in the concrete world afterwards. So, angelic gratitude, yes, thank you to the student for this very, very interesting sharing. So let's continue now with the Master of Ceremony. So you will see this is a dream, and the student has done a very complete analysis. So at first I will just read what is in black, so which is the dream at first, and then we will come back to the analysis together. So the dream is, we attend an event outer world where Mrs. Smith plays the role of a master of ceremonies. The analysis, and then we meet Mrs. Smith and talk outside. She tells me that her husband was angry with her because he didn't give her son the medicine that he preferred. He was so angry that he blocked Mrs. Smith's call, and she also showed no concern with his behavior. Next, we talk about Smith's outfit. She wears a skirt so thin that we could see her black underwear. Therefore, she offers to borrow the white dress I am wearing to wear inside her skirt. But I do not agree, it is good that I don't agree, Then she goes inside the hall. Later, we also go inside and we see Mrs. Smith on stage in a blue and white silk dress that looks very nice and comfortable. It seems that the organization committee prepared a dress for the MC, so the Master of Ceremony. My friends and I tell each other that everything is fine for her. So, this is very interesting because, as you know, we invoke an angel and then we receive dreams that correspond to certain qualities and distortions of these angels. Of course, human distortions related to this pure state of consciousness that represent the angel. So here it's very important, like all the dreams, to remember the very first symbols. We attend an event, outer world, where Mrs. Smith plays the role of a master of ceremony. So this is like social event, in the exterior world for her, Mrs. Smith, what she represents, and master of ceremony. So, of course, we see immediately the connection with the social relationships, the great capacity in the plus, because the master of ceremony can be plus, of course, great capacity to socialize, to animate groups, to organize people so that they can be together in great conditions, so there are many qualities to make like a living meeting also, full of joy, of interest, and that can be very inspiring also. So the Master of Ceremony has an important role when we think about that, when there is a meeting. So either in the plus it can be very inspiring, or somehow it can be like more an ordinary ceremony, or something more like ordinary, that brings less qualities or evolution within the group. So here Mrs. Smith represents someone that talks too much, complains to others, thinks too much about the negative of others, and has a tendency to gossip. So imagine also the connection with Jeliel. Of course, here we see the tendency to put too much emphasis and too much importance on what the others will think, and also on the exterior environment in general. Because when you gossip, or when you are like a master of ceremony, and then you think about others, etc. So it's because you have these memories within yourself where you want to think about others a lot. You will think about what the others think of you in return a lot, and then this is very present in your mind, and this is why we can see such a dream. And of course, as we saw before with the previous sharing, if the social is too present in our mind and with not the right intention, then eventually we can lose a lot of energy. And this is a little bit what we see in this dream. So then the student analysis. So Mrs. Smith is very talkative, but in a big event like this, she should be a professional MC. Since she is not well prepared for the event, it shows negative resonances related to this symbol. This is very well understood. An MC is a person who leads the audience to follow the whole story on the stage, plays an important role to make the event successful. Sometimes she doesn't only follow the designed flow and must be able to adapt to the situation. She must be confident in communicating in front of a lot of people. This is very well defined. And we see also the pluses, of course, in the MC in this definition. So even when feeling tired, the MC needs to be happy and smiling to everyone. In some percentage, I may still have a facade, lack of confidence, lack of consistency in my communication with others. I can sometimes be rigid. Yes, exactly. And sometimes also, when we want to be the master of ceremony, and like here, she is not prepared in the dream, etc. So Mrs. Smith. So it's because we want too much to put ourselves in front of others. So this is also related to need of attention, need of recognition, needs to be loved, etc. Through our communication and through our central role among of others. So this is like the social becomes, the social becomes our world somehow, and we want to be in the center of the world, in the center of the social attention. This is a little bit what we see here in this dream. And remember, of course, in terms of percentages. So we meet Mrs. Smith and talk outside. She tells me that her husband was angry with her because she didn't give her son the medicine that he preferred. So here it's interesting because always remember the beginning of the dream. This is an exterior event, Mrs. Smith and the master of ceremony. And then we have seen too much social oriented, aspects that trigger what? It trigger a conflict with the husband. The husband is angry because there is a problem also with the son. So the equation is that actually the social needs sometimes create family discrepancies, and this is like so often that we can see that. Sometimes it can be related to work, so we work too much and then eventually this creates imbalances within the family because our energy goes outside too much. And here the energy goes to the social, to needs of recognition, needs to be in groups, to have many friends, etc. And to manage that, to manage groups, and to be really the center of the attention. But then it can create that with such memories we could neglect somehow our couple relationship, we could neglect our family, and this is a little bit what we see here, So because the son is her future, what she becomes, and the son needs to be healed. But to be healed well, of course, it needs to, there is a need to have stable parents, of course, and a stable couple relationship. So this is why here we see the husband that is angry because sometimes when our social needs, like in this dream, become too strong, eventually we no longer listen to the others. We want to be in the center, we want to be like the master, the leader, and eventually we no longer listen to the others, to their point of view, and we see it creates conflicts. And then the husband was so angry, he blocked the call. So once there is a disturbance, eventually we cut ourselves, we block the communication, and we can even flee in the social because our relationship within the family, in the couple relationship at home is not, really successful, not happy, and then we compensate with social relationships. So then she analyzes conflicts in relationships which come from a lack of clear communication and explanation. Each seems to take their own way instead of being unified. So Smith's husband is also me. He represents my masculine energy, the way I act. Sometimes my actions, my reaction toward a conflict are still childish, like maturity. I have difficulty to address and solve conflicts. At the root cause, I just want others to follow my wish, desire. In terms of percentages, always, but this is very well understood. So next, we talk about Smith's outfit. She wears a skirt so thin that we could see her black underwear. So clothes show our appearance. Good, appropriate outfit shows we care about ourselves and also respect others. Exactly, so this is a good point. And sometimes we can think, oh, we are spiritual, this is not so important, the way we look, the way we dress, this is matter, this is not important. Other people don't look at us and we are married and, No, no, it's important the way we dress ourselves, the clothes we wear, and also just to be in good shape, physically speaking, to have all beautiful conditions. This is also marrying spirit and matter, but of course, too much of that is not good, but not enough is not good either. But it's better, just also for the couple relationship, if you just, sometimes, we can have perfume, or we can have beautiful clothes, or romantic clothes, when we have like a romantic moment, and this is okay, this is what also maintain the good fire, the good energy, and we don't get used to the other person or to our clothes, or we just continue to keep a sacred and great energy in everything we do, and we say and we bear also. We wear in terms of clothes. So in this situation, it means sometimes I still neglect myself, lack of caring, in a low mood. In other aspects, this outfit may show seduction to others. Yes, because it could be rather the opposite. Sometimes the student might think too much, because there is the skirt here with the apparent underwear, and then there is another skirt, and then in the next scene there is another skirt. So you see there is like a little bit too much importance on the appearances. So what the other will think of me if I wear that, if I do that, if I drive this car, or if I have this house, or if I have this kind of makeup, this kind of haircut, etc. And then we think about others too much. So, and of course, when we have like apparent underwears like that, it's because we want to please, we want to receive affection somehow, because this is like, it becomes too intimate, and we want to be loved, to be recognized, etc. So therefore she offers to borrow the white dress I am wearing to wear inside her skirt. So imagine if someone comes to you and say, okay, can I borrow your dress, and imagine, so then you no longer have anything. So this is not something you can do like that suddenly in an evening, in a ceremony. So this shows that sometimes, so she explained from color analysis, black represents negative memories, but there is also the positive of the black color. White represents spirituality, but there is also the negative aspects of spirituality, like here, using spirituality to cover negative memories. It's like I disconnect with real life and live in a bubble of illusion. So this is quite well understood, because it is sometimes like putting, like a false illusory, as she says. So this is an illusory energy that will create a facade. I'm great, I'm spiritual, everything is fine, but at the same time, this is just a cover. Within herself, there can be discrepancy, at a certain percentage. So of course, this creates dualities, because sometimes she wants to please too much, or to be loved, etc. So this is what we see in the black underwear and the white dress that is covering that. So this is a duality also between the white and black, the pluses, the minuses, So these are archetypes, somehow the black and white here, how they are presented. So So of course, I mentioned the pluses, the minuses, but here we need to understand that this is negative, as she said. So the black is negative here, and the white is also negative in this context. So, but I do not agree. It is good that I don't agree. Yes, this is good to say no at that moment. I'm aware of this bubble and I don't choose to solve the problem that way. So then she goes inside the hole. So this is the first positive aspect, but the problem is not solved. So this is why this is not completely positive neither, because later we also go inside and we see Mrs. Smith on stage in a blue and white silk dress that looks very nice and comfortable. So it seems that the organization committee prepared a dress for the MC. So you see there is another dress that is done just for the MC, and then there are some comments, like, oh, everything is fine for her, etc. So, and then this kind of comments, this is also related to what Mrs. Smith represents, a tendency to gossip, just to make comments and not necessarily positive comments about others, etc. So it seems a good ending when everything is managed well. Her outfit is totally suitable for her role. Blue and white color gives her confidence on the stage, and most important, the dress also makes her comfortable. I can use resources inside to help overcome difficult situations. But however, the conflict with her husband from the beginning is not solved and addressed. I sometimes avoid improving my couple relationship and my inner couple also. Instead, I still go outside and play a role and be busy solving external works. So indeed, this is rather the negative aspect here, because of course, even if there is like another dress, so we feel in the dream, and this is presented in a way that, with the husband there is still a pending conflict, and then there was like the underwear that was apparent, and now there is just a replacement dressed, but still, the energy of the person is still the same, and this is just the dress that solves the problem, but this is again an appearance and not fundamentally the qualities that are developed because of this dress. So this dream invites me to work on my inner couple and real couple relationship, look at the beauty inside the pluses instead of just seeing his minuses. So I still have a tendency to go outside, fill up my head with the outer world's works. Even sometimes it is out of my position to do such work. So Smith's job is not an MC, so focus on my main job. So indeed, this is very well explained, and you see how, what I explained at the beginning, related to the individual awareness and completed, the aspect of feeling like an entire unity before going in the social. So important it is, because the social or friends or the couple relationship without a stable individuality, it creates sooner or later complications. So this is a beautiful teaching here that we see in this dream, and also a very profound analysis from the students. So thank you for having shared this very interesting dream. So let's finish with a last PR for today, which is called Water Surrounding Me. So again, we will just read the dream and come back for the analysis after having read the dream at first. So, in my dream, I saw water around me. The water's color is brown. The surrounding atmosphere is so quiet and lonely. I dropped my spoon in the lake. I ran across a small bridge to go back to my room and take a new spoon, but after that, I still dropped my chopsticks. So this is the dream. This is very interesting, and you will see how we can make links with what she has lived at that moment. So, in my dream, I saw water around me, so life with a lot of emotions. Exactly. And the beginning is very, very simple. Water around me, so a lot of emotions. But the water's color is brown. Then the student says, okay, the color shows that it is not fresh, pure. Maybe there will be bad emotions. There is no circulation, no flows, so everything backlog. It shows that I suppressed my emotions. There was no renewal, so everything turned gloomy in my feelings. Brown is the lens color, lens related to actions, so there are difficulties with actions to regulate emotion. Wow, you see, just two symbols. And this is quite a definition. Yes, and this is very well explained actually. So these are related to emotions that are too down to earth, that have difficulties to elevate the energy at that moment. So too materialistic and not pure enough. And this creates, so a water like that, brown, this creates confusion, a not clear, a not healthy energy. So the surrounding atmosphere is so quiet and lonely. So this is of course related to a certain aspect in her. She was feeling like that, like alone, lonely, sad, like, not well. And I dropped my spoon in the lake. So spoon is a tool for eating. Dropping the spoon, there is a difficulty in nourishing because of losing tools. Yes, very well analyzed. And of course, maybe you have already, noticed this aspect, but she loses her spoon and then her chopsticks. So in terms of archetypes, in terms of energy, maybe you have noticed the spoon is the feminine, the receptive dimension. And of course, later the chopsticks are related to the masculine energy. So this is really a dream that talks about both polarities, both principles here. And then the fact that she drops her spoon also represents a difficulty to be receptive to right and constructive and nourishing healthy emotions. Because of course, when the spoon is in the lake, then eventually if she gets the spoon back, the spoon will have all the brown water. So we understand that there will be a difficulty to be receptive, to receive nourishing emotions. So I ran across a small bridge to go back to my room and take a new spoon, but after that I still dropped my chopsticks. So again, there is a loss of energy related to the masculine energy. The masculine energy that will miss here, and that this lack of masculine energy will prevent her from having, discernment, from having the right willpower also to decide what kind of nourishment is right for her or not. So she explained the dropping happened twice, so I did not complete my old lessons, have a difficulty in nourishing and keeping my tools. Exactly. And we could add the both principles in the interpretation, of course. So, in my real life, that weekend, I met my old boyfriend in his hometown. So he helped me to complete some documents related to real estate. I stayed in a room number 202. I tried to keep a distance from him. He felt quite upset with my attitude. So this is very interesting. Of course, if you have a dream like that, then you have the room 202, and then you have the old boyfriend. So imagine there is a complete equation to really work on your old principles, on your ancient patterns related to love relationship, how you interact in a couple, etc. And of course, it creates dualities. The two is the relationship, is the love, wisdom, all the qualities related to angels, to angel Jeliel. But of course, it's also related to dualities, like before, pluses, minuses, black, white, etc. So this is what we see here also. All the old memories that came back to the surface and that trigger dualities, trigger a certain gloomy energy, sadness and the difficulty to nourish herself with the right energy, like a confusion because of all the old souvenirs and memories that sometimes an ancient relationship can trigger, and then this creates confusion. We no longer know where we are exactly, and how to behave, and what we feel exactly. Do I still love him or not, etc. And sometimes it can be so complicated to turn the page really correctly. And this is a little bit what we see here in this sharing, because she was alone in the dream, so you are alone, and then you meet the ex-boyfriend, and you are like, okay, so was I right maybe to leave him at that moment, or was it correct to separate, and then all these kind of emotions that bring confusion emerge, and this is why then she explains, in the afternoon I left his hometown to go back home. I cried all the way back. Many memories about us came back. I felt so upset. I observed myself and chatted with my old friend. I know that I am upset because of old memories, but tears can't stop falling. And at that moment we have to go back to these memories, to who we were at that moment, and just to also to forgive ourselves, to forgive the others, to consider, okay, I had less knowledge and wisdom than now. So if I could do things better, so I would do things differently right now. But the past is the past, and it was. Like the student said before, it was a teacher. Like the experiment was a teaching for us at that moment, and now we need to turn the page. We need to forgive ourselves, to take the lesson, to reprogram new memories, new patterns that correspond to the new knowledge that we have, new aspirations that we want to go to. And this is how progressively we turn the page. We understand that, okay, for the next couple relationship, we will ask for dreams, we will ask for signs, we will have spiritual guidance, etc. And we accept our past. We accept it with what we were at that moment. So the mantra with Jeliel activated a lot of memories about the couple inside me. So this situation shows that I still need to work with Jeliel related to the couple relationship aspect. Yes, and also with other angels that can help, but of course, when we feel like that, certain aspects related to an ancient relationship, so we need to address these memories, and we need to focus again, to focus on our individuality without becoming self-centered. You know what I mean? The positive aspect of the individuality. The individual aspect that is fundamental to create a right balance in all our relationships. So this completes this presentation of today. So I would like to congratulate you all for all the sharings that you have submitted. So this is so touching always to read and to see all your realizations, all the work that you do thanks to this knowledge. So I wish you a beautiful continuity in the fusion of your masculine and feminine principles.